Do you know what is electronic brain? I bet you do. Welcome to Route210.com, and here we are with 10 fun facts about technology you might be interested. Number 1. Did you know that PCs used to go by the name electronic brain in the 1950s? Computers were called electronic brains in the 1950s. A computer called the UNIVAC 1101 was invented in the United States in 1950. These computers are considered to be the first computers that were capable of storing and running a program from memory, and hence were called electronic brains. Number 2. Did you know that emails has been around longer than the World Wide Web? Email or electronic mail was invented by Ray Tomlinson and was first used in the 1960s on a limited basis. On the other hand, WWW or World Wide Web was invented by Tim Berners-Lee in 1989. Number 3. Do you know what does HP, Google, Microsoft, and Apple all have in common? HP, Google, Microsoft, and Apple, all these technology giants, have only one thing in common: that all of these IT companies were started in a garage. Number 4. Do you know what technophobia is? Technophobia is the fear of advanced and complex technologies. Technophobia began to gain attention with the dawn of the Industrial Revolution in England. With the invention of new machines that were able to do the work of skilled craftsmen, the unemployment rate was steadily rising, along with a strong dislike for new technology. Number 5. Do you know how old is the Internet? The Internet is 11,190 days old and counting. The origins of the Internet date back to the research conducted by the US federal government in the 1960s in order to create a strong communication with computer networks. However, in the year 1989, the Internet we know and use today was born. Number 6. Did you know NASA once pranked the entire world? On 1st April 2005, NASA pranked the entire world by claiming that they had found water on Mars. This just shows that jokes and pranks can happen in every field, even if it is the ever-serious field of science. Number 7. Did you know that the animal in the logo of Firefox is not a fox? Firefox is the English word for red panda, a protected species in Asia. So the browser's logo is actually a red panda, not a fox. Number 8. Do you know what the very first logo of Apple was? The very first logo of Apple featured Isaac Newton sitting underneath a tree with an apple about to fall on his head. It was drawn by Ronald Wayne, the third founder of Apple besides Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Jobs has asserted that the logo was inspired by the story of his childhood. Number 9. Did you know that almost 86% people plug their USB device upside down in the first attempt? However, a new version of the USB connector called the USB Type-C has been introduced in order to relieve the users of their frustration. USB-C features a new smaller and reversible connector shape, so it is much easier to plug in the USB device. Number 10. Did you know that the name Google was created accidentally? Back in the late 90s, when Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders of Google, were brainstorming for a name for their search engine, their friend Sean suggested the name Googleplex. Larry agreed to use a shorter version of the name and decided to use Google. However, it was misspelled, and thus they accidentally came up with the name Google. See you tomorrow with another 10 facts. If you don't want to miss a single video, subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon. And of course, share it with your friends.